There it came on.
Sometimes they're late.
What's the matter?
It's not a bug. Oh,
It doesn't drip, so.
it's just eavesdropping.
So I guess we're on page 56, ready for number 2, verses 8 and 9. Yeah.
Someone here. Yep.
Tally ho.
Verses 8 and 9. The question is asked, who planned this against Tyre? The answer is unmistakably clear. The Lord of hosts hath purposed it to stain the pride of all glory. Cross-reference Ezekiel 27, 28, and 29.
Okay. Let's see, we were reading those verses, weren't we?
Well, we read the overall verses in the thing above, verses 8 through 18. I think that's what we were doing.
Okay.
I can read those 2 verses if you want.
Might not be a bad idea.
I haven't maybe killed anyone. Okay. Chapter 23, verses 8 and 1.
It's 27. Chapter 27. Right?
That's the cross reference in Ezekiel.
That's what I was talking about.
Oh, okay. Ezekiel 27. You want 8 and 9 from 27?
Yes.
The inhabitants of Zidon and Arvad,
Let's try putting the 2 with it. It's 28 and 29. Chapter 27, verses 28 and 29.
I thought those were the chapters. It's saying Ezekiel chapter 27, chapter 28 and 29.
My mistake. So let's just move on as usual then. Verse 10.
And the Lord stretched out his hand and commanded that the strongholds be destroyed. The days of rejoicing for Tyre and Sidon would be gone.
Okay. When the Lord stretched out his hands, you got to watch for that.
I always tell you to be careful about the long arm of the law, but I think the Lord has a longer one.
Inspector Gadget doesn't have a chance.
Yeah, no. He came in second place.
I see. Ezra, you ready?
Mm-hmm. Verses 13, 14. The Lord used the Chaldeans as his agent
Although Tyre was not completely bare, like the top of a rock, cross reference Ezekiel 26, verse 4, until Alexander the Great did so in 322 BC. Nebuchadnezzar was the one who ravished Tyre by besieging the city for 13 years and driving the inhabitants to an island a mile offshore.
Okay. Who was Alexander the Great?
Wasn't he a Greek? Or was he Roman?
Greek. Alexander the Great was the king, if you will, of the Grecian kingdom. He was a very power-hungry individual, and
Conquered most all the known world.
they,
Conquered most all the known world at the time.
okay, he conquered much of the known world at the time, and he was rather oh dear, why can't I think of what I wanted to say? Ingenious.
It's said that he made Tyre not an island.
Yeah, somebody had a tired back time he got done.
It took him a couple months, but he
Yeah,
leveled an area and made Tyre a peninsula.
it must have not been very deep there to start with. But
You wouldn't think so. If it did was, it makes the feet even greater. He died of alcoholism because he couldn't conquer anymore. He thought he conquered everything there was,
except himself.
except himself. He drunk himself to death.
Nebuchadnezzar was another world ruler, if you will, of the Babylonian Empire. And he besieged the city of Tyre for 13 years. Next.
Came back to me. Fishing.
Back to you.
Verses 15 through 17. This mighty city would be forgotten 70 years, which probably represents the period of Babylon's world domination. Cross reference Jeremiah 25, verse 11, chapter 29, verse 10. After the end of this period, Tyre would return to commercial prominence and will sing like a harlot, enticing lovers to approach her once again for her merchandise.
Okay. An accomplishment, but not a very moral one. So. And next.
Verse 18. However, this time her wealth will be set apart for the Lord and will be used to sustain those who dwell in the presence of the Lord. Cross reference Ezra 3, verse 7.
What does Ezra have to do with Babylon and Jerusalem. Any ideas?
He was, oh, he was a priest, wasn't he? He was scribe? Or was it
I
a
believe.
prophet?
Well, let's just say it like this. He was instrumental in rebuilding the temple in Jerusalem. And was a great leader. Any question or comments?
He did a lot. I think he has a whole book.
Yeah. Okay, the application for today. It's number 1, Ezra.
Isaiah 21:9.
If you got it, that'd be good.
And behold, there cometh a chariot of men with a couple of horsemen, and he answered and said, Babylon is fallen, and all the graven images, carven graven images of her gods, he has broken into the ground.
Okay.
This verse is quoted in Revelation 14, verse 8, and Revelation 18, verse 2, and applied to the great city, which probably was Rome, the capital of the world empire, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Revelation 17, verse 18. Rome of the first century was ancient Babylon, were both, and ancient Babylon, were both guilty of opposing God and his people. Therefore, God promised the downfall of each. Those who stand on the Lord's side shall gain the victory. Revelation 17, verse 14. But all who resist him, even the world empires, shall be brought down.
Okay. Does anybody know about what time the Roman Empire began?
As long as I could tell you, it was sometime after. If you can answer. No, I will not know any time stamp. Which I'm going off the statue. Nebuchadnezzar's dream.
Oh, yeah. It was a good many years after Isaiah lived. But
Farther than anyone could prophesy in their human power.
I'm just trying to think. I don't remember. Okay, number 2.
Isaiah 22:22. Jesus Christ is the one who has this authority. Revelation 3:7. He alone is head over all things to the church. Ephesians 1. verses 22, 23, or 22 and 23, and has all authority both in heaven and earth, Matthew 28:18. Neither the Pope nor any council, synod,
Synod, yes.
or convention has divine approval to make religious laws or bind human traditions in the pretense of serving God.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
It says the Roman Empire was founded in 27 BC.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like that's all that long before Christ.
It wasn't. Okay, questions, numbers 1.
Number one, you have to read all
Well, we just read all of that above, so let's start with the questions.
that. Who was to go up and beseech? I can make out E, but other than that, I can't read my own writing. 21 2.
He's an elder.
It's,
Lamb and meat.
and you said 21 too? Okay. Ezra?
What did the watchman say after he saw a chariot of men with a couple of horsemen? Babylon is fallen. 21.
Okay. Babylon is fallen and the image is broken unto the ground. What image was he talking about?
The image broken to the ground. What was that?
What image was he talking about?
Of your God.
Okay. Probably the Ashtoreth. But anyhow, it was one of the idol images. Number 3.
The burden of what 3 places is described in Isaiah 21? Wilderness of the sea, Babylon, or seas, wilderness of the sea, or Babylon, Duma, and Arabia.
Okay.
And Duma is sometimes called Edom. I think that's what you were saying earlier. Yes.
Okay. And you got your references?
And that would be that's one I missed. Isaiah 21. Verse 1. Verse 11 and verse 13.
Okay. Number 4.
Why did Isaiah tell them not to comfort him? Because of the women of the daughter of my people. 22 verse 4.
Okay. I used verses 4 and 5. It was to be a day of trouble and perplexity. And I just, there wasn't any way to comfort him. So,
Yeah, I don't blame him.
yeah.
It's pretty unsettling vision.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah. And Amos, your answer was correct. He just,
verse 5. Oops.
and speaking of number 5,
What shall come to pass with the choicest valleys of Jerusalem? The horsemen shall set themselves array in the gate. 22 verse 7.
okay.
Or activate.
Closure.
Okay.
22 verse 7.
Yeah. You might want to include the chariots. The valley was full of chariots. And chariots and horsemen. Number 6.
Who represented the attitude God would carry away captives? Jephthah, 22:15 through 19.
Okay. You want to finish the question?
Who represented the attitude God would bless? Eliakim, 22:20 through 21.
I took the broad scope, 20,
Yeah.
verses 20 through 24. Right. Number 7.
What will God lay upon the shoulder of Eliakim, the key of the house of David? 22 verse 26.
Okay. What was the significance of passing on the key of David? It signified the transferring of power. And so if you had the key of David, you were the man in charge.
You have the authority.
You had the authority of the king. We'll run across the key of David again yet before we're finished. Number 8.
Who is described as the market of nations? Tyre 23, 1 to 3.
Mhm. It was Sidon and not Tyre. Unless I stand corrected. Verse 3, in the great waters, the seed of Sihor, the harvest of the river is her revenue, and she is a mart of nations. Number 10. Number 9, I'm sorry.
Why had the Lord purposed this trouble against Tyre? To stain the pride of all glory, to bring contention on the honorable. Chapter 23, verse 9.
Okay. And number 10.
How long will Tyre be forgotten? 70 years. 23 verse 50.
Question or comment? Well, then it's time for the true false.
Isaiah was bowed down and dismayed at some of the things he saw and heard. True, 21 verse 3.
Okay.
Some of the houses of Jerusalem were torn down to fortify the wall. True. 22, verse 10.
How about 23:1? I had trouble deciding whether this was one of those trick questions. If any of the houses were knocked down or taken down, there were some, but some is not all. And in chapter 23 and verse 1, it says, there is no house. So it's,
That's talking about Tyre.
yes,
Questions about Jerusalem.
yes.
And the stuff in 23:1 isn't talking about Odin's wool.
I stand corrected. Number 3.
The him shall bring shame to his father's house. False. 22:23.
Okay. Number 4.
The city of Tyre had been a joyous city. True. 23 verse 7.
Okay.
The ships of Tarshish were told to shout for joy. False. 23:1. Where the ships of Tarshish?
I used 23:6. I don't know why.
That's 23 1 and 14.
Ooh. Yeah. Neither of them paint a pretty picture.
Yeah.
There's no shouting for joy in any of those verses.
Okay. I did use 23:6. This is pass over to Tarshish, howl, the inhabitants of the isle. And they weren't told to shout for joy. They howled. Question or comments on the true false? Okay, who gets the research question?
Where does the New Testament claim that Christ has the key of David, which is mentioned in Isaiah 22:22? I had Revelation 3:7. What is meant by this? He has the authority.
Okay. Christ has full authority. I told you we'd come back to that.
It's kind of a recurring thing.
Yeah.
It is important for modern application, I guess you could say. As Christ back into the authority of David, fulfills God's promise to David. You know,
God's promise to David, what was that?
your kids will reign.
There would always be a descendant of David on the throne.
And now there's an eternal one.
Yes. Thought question. He's thinking about it. Oh. Why does the Lord purpose to stain the pride of all glory? 23:9.
Well, in this context, it's take away the glory of Tarshish, or Tyre, excuse me. That's his whole reason for bringing it to rubble. It's his purpose. And just as side thoughts, we know he doesn't like the prideful. He doesn't like those who do self-glory. He has all reason to stand the pride of all glory.
Here's what I said, right or wrong. To show his power and the necessity of obeying him. And we'll pick up with lesson 10 next time.
There's a place of quiet rest, near to the heart of God, a place where sin cannot dwell, near to the heart of God. Oh, Jesus, first Redeemer, sent from the heart of God. Oh, thou to wait before thee, near to the heart of God. There's a place of comfort sweet, near to the heart of God, a place where we are safe and free, near to the heart of God. Oh, Jesus, first Redeemer, sent from the heart of God. Oh, those who wait before thee, near to the heart of God. There is a place of hope remain, near to the heart of God, a place where all is joy and peace, near to the heart of God. Oh, Jesus, blessed Redeemer, sent from the heart of God. Oh, those who wait before thee, near to the heart of God. When we walk with the Lord in the light of His word, what a glory He sheds on
do His good will. He abides with us still, and with all who will trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus, but to trust and obey. Not a shadow can rise, not a cloud in the sky, but His love quickly guides it away. Not a doubt nor a fear, not a sign or a fear, can abide while we trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus, but to trust and obey. But we never can prove that the night of His love until all we ought to be laid. For the day when He shines, and the joy He bestows, are for those who will trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus, but to trust